Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm sharing with you really quick my thoughts on the brand new Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. A little bit of my background with Natasha Denona. I do own her very well loved Sunset palette and it's one of my favorite palettes in my collection. That being said, I really enjoy that palette because all of the foiled shades are absolutely gorgeous and pigmented, and the matte shades are super creamy and blendable. So overall I really enjoy that palette, which is why I decided to try out her mini Sunset palette as well. Now I did also review that palette as well, so I'll have it linked off somewhere. Spoiler alert, I didn't enjoy that palette. For some reason the formula in that palette was so much different from the full-size Sunset palette, and I swatched it as well in that video so you can kind of see how it performs compared to the full size. I compared it to some similar shades, and in that video you can see that the original Sunset palette is so much more pigmented and creamy as opposed to the mini Sunset palette, which I felt like was a lot more sheer, very kind of stiff and a lot harder to work with. That palette was a total miss for me, so when I saw this palette came out I was really excited to give it a try because I was hoping that the formula hasn't changed with Natasha Denona. I was just hoping that that palette itself was just a dud. So we picked this one up and I'm really excited to try it because I don't actually own the full-size Star palette. I have been interested in purchasing that palette, but because it's such a pricey purchase, her full sizes are around, I think some of them are $200, but the one that I have is $130. $130 is still really expensive. I'm not exactly sure how much the full-size Star palette is, but when I saw this one, I wanted to give it a try. What I really like specifically about this palette is that you can create an everyday look with it with just these some of more neutral shades, but then it also comes with this pop of color. Teals and blues are kind of like my favorite pop of color, so as soon as I saw this color story, I knew I had to have it. So I actually ended up trying two different looks with this palette, and unfortunately, the one I was least excited about ended up looking the best. For this look I played around with more of the everyday shades, so more of like these three in the middle. The mattes were incredibly creamy and blendable, similar experience to the ones that I have in my Sunset palette, so I really enjoyed the mattes in this palette. As well as the shimmer shade, I thought it was pretty okay. It was nothing too special. With shimmer shades like these I like to apply it with a finger, which I did with this one as well, and it was pretty pigmented but not the best that I've seen ever. Overall, the everyday look that I did with this palette was really easy to do. I feel like it turned out pretty, but I was most excited to try a little bit more of a funky look with the blue shade here on the end. Unfortunately, with that look, I had the most difficulty with this palette. I tried playing around with this tealy blue shade here on the end, and which is my favorite color out of the entire palette, but unfortunately I just could not get it to work. I swatched it onto my finger. It was super creamy, very smooth and pigmented, but when I swatched it even on my hand swatches or my arm swatches and then onto the eyes, I couldn't get any pigmentation. Again, when I'm using shimmery shades like this, I always like to use my finger so I can get the most pigmentation, but even with that, I barely got anything. Now maybe that shadow is supposed to be like that by design, but unfortunately because I was looking for something a little bit more pigmented, something with more of a punch, and I didn't get that from this shade, I was a little bit disappointed. In the pan, it's such a beautiful duochrome shade that I was hoping that it would translate like that onto my lids, but it just really didn't. I even tried using a brush with this shade and the brush honestly didn't pick up anything, which was also a little bit odd, so overall I just was not happy with this shade on the end, and sadly that was the shade I was most excited about. The gold one on the end was okay to me. I feel like it's very crumbly and soft, so when you arm swatch it, it's a beautiful shade, but you can still see how it's crumbled a little bit. But on the eyes, I feel like it wasn't that pigmented because it was so crumbly. I'm sad to say that I'm pretty disappointed with this palette just because the shades I was most excited about didn't end up working out for me. Now if you're interested in this palette for like the middle everyday shades, I feel like those three shades are absolutely beautiful. They worked fine with me, but they aren't anything too special, which is why I don't really care if those are fantastic if the entire palette doesn't work as well. Honestly, those neutral shades aren't anything too special to me. I feel like I have a ton of shades like that already in my collection, which is probably why this is going back. I don't know, I feel like if you really like those neutral shades, those mattes are really creamy, blend out really well, and easy to work with, but I was mostly excited for that teal shade and it was so lackluster, so overall I'm just kind of disappointed with it. So that is two mini palettes that I haven't loved, so I'm pretty sure that's a sign that the mini palettes aren't for me. So unfortunately, it sounds like I'm going to be sticking with the full-size palettes, which just my luck, right? Because they're like 5 times the price, even though this is already $25 for this itty bitty palette. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video on my thoughts on this new palette. If you have tried any other Natasha Denona products, her eyeshadows, foundation, anything, let me know what you think, because I feel like so far the only hits I've had with Natasha Denona has been her full-size eyeshadow palette, and I've only tried the Sunset one. I'll be quite honest, it's kind of turning me off of the brand just because I've tried quite a bit of her products already and only have had one hit. Anyways, if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, also leave those down below. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already so you can come join the family, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!